So what I'm going to do here is I divided this piece of paper, which is round about A4, and it is the Fabriano Artistico hot press watercolor paper. And I'm going to divide it in four so that we don't waste the paper, because these little pansies and violas are small little flowers. And you can just draw this square, or you can use washi tape if you prefer. I just did it because it's pretty. Okay, so this tape is washi tape, and there's no sticky glue on your paper once you finish it. Always make sure that you use a proper artist quality tape so that the glue doesn't stick on your paper, because you will see watercolors won't paint over the glue. And I'm going to start on the left hand side on the top corner there. And I've always find inspiration from little things like, beautiful tins with there's soap in, or, you know, tissue boxes. Funny enough, some of them have beautiful flowers on, watercolor paintings and stuff. And the one here that is in view here is from, I bought it from Woolworths, and the soap is from Italy, and it smells amazing. And there's a whole bunch of violas on there. And I actually bought it just for the violas, or the pansies, because it's so beautiful. They are my favorite flowers, and I know that some of them are edible. I haven't really tried it, so I'm just I've seen restaurants put it on cake or whatever, because the one that I painted before, the white one, was on cake. But I decided to paint a little bit more of a colorful one, again for beginners. So there will be, a few of these little violas that we're going to paint on this page. And I'm just drawing it out slightly. And if it's a little bit, different, I can adjust it. So I want the petals to be equal size. It's a little bit light. And then I just rub it out softly. There's going to be quite a lot of rubbing out at the moment. So sometimes you can draw it on a piece of paper first and just practice it, which I did, but still, just to get the portions right, I still rub out a little bit. And this eraser is very soft, so it doesn't ruin the paper. Just make sure the paper that you use are quite strong. Otherwise, draw it on a piece of paper and then just trace it onto your watercolor paper if you're scared you're going to rub out too much. And this is about it. I'm going to just soften the pencil lines, but make sure that it's light or dark enough. But I want to make sure that it's light enough so the watercolors don't shine through all of these colors. And I think this part I'm going to speed up just because it's going to take a while to draw this out, and you don't necessarily want to see the whole process. But this is round about it, and I'm done. I'm just taking an old brush and just wipe off all the dust. This is the Kuretake watercolor set from Japan that I ordered. I always wanted this set, and I finally ordered one because I saw them at an art store. And obviously, the colors are beautiful. These are all colors that I will use. However, there is something in the paint pigment, I'm not sure what, but it is slightly different. So I started just dropping in the first layer of the colors just to test it on this viola at the bottom there, or pansy. And I'm going to mix the colors just in this plastic palette next to me. It's actually a little tray that I bought at a crazy store here in South Africa. And it's a lovely plastic tray. You can mix quite a lot of colors. It's not like a porcelain tray, but sometimes I have other colors on my other trays that I don't necessarily want to, wash. So I'm going to mix fresh colors here, and you'll see the consistency is going to be creamy, milky, and tea, which I will discuss with all of you very soon. We're going to do a video about that too. And I've tested the first layer on the paper just to check if it's what the consistency is. So it's just a normal plain wash, and then I will do the top part for you now to show you exactly what I did. I am using my silver black velvet brush number 8, and I might go with a smaller brush at a later stage. And then I do have 2 glasses of water, and what I did was I just dropped in some of this paint. Now it's very cold today. We have a little bit of sun coming out now, but it was raining earlier. And then also on my left hand side here I have a tissue paper. So I always have 2 glasses of water and tissue paper handy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that to dry so that I can drop in all of the other colors later. And then I'm going to go to the top here, wet this. You don't want puddles. You want to make sure, my fingers are a bit dirty from all the paint. I'm trying to clean my studio here. And again, drop in some of these colors. Take it just to the, not to the edge, and I'll show you why, because you'll see why now. And then I'm going to pull this down into this bottom section, just tiny little lines like that. I want some of the paper to shine through, so I'm going to leave that, and then clean my fingers, it's yellow. And then I'm going to softly wet my brush and just move the paint around to the edges there, and then pick up a little bit more of this color and just drop it in there. Now this is, I have no idea what the colors are. I've started painting without checking the colors, but I will discuss it with you later. So this is more like a pinkish color. There you go, and just wet it like that and leave it. Alright, and then you can rinse your brush, and then you can just pull some of the paint with your brush, wipe it on tissue paper, and you'll notice when it's a bit too wet still, the paint will flow back into your highlighted sections that you're creating it as like that. But just keep on doing it until you see that you can create these little highlighted little sections on your painting. It takes a while, especially on a day where it's you know, not hot. It's quite, like I said, we had quite a lot of rain, and what I want to do is I just want to pull out some of the paint with my brush, and we want it to stay light. So just carry on lifting out. You can see the paint is drying a little bit more now, and just make sure your brush is quite dry when you do this. So you wipe it on paper, and you can see those little highlighted little detail that I'm creating here with my brush. Okay, now there's a little bit of a puddle there, so I'm just going to take my brush and just sweep it up, just pick it up, and quite happy with that. And then I want to pick up some more paint while it's wet, because it's very wet here, and I just want to drop it in on that section there. I want to leave a little lighter section there, and then I'm going to drop in some more there, and then a little bit there and a little bit here. Okay, now I'm going to pick up some of this beautiful purple, which is this color that I mixed with some blue and this pink color, and I want to just drop in a little bit while the paper is wet, still very wet. And then I'm going to make sure that I have a nice tip on my brush. So I'm going to just twirl it on my paper. Let me find a piece of paper quickly. So I'm going to just take my brush and twirl it. I have a nice tip. And I'm just going to pull it out like this. And leave it. Just leave it. And the section is very wet and it takes quite some time to dry. And I'm going to go back and just clean up some of those little parts that it's like a tiny little flower. Just want to move it around a bit. Drop in some more where I want it a bit more darker. And I want to just pull some in there with the tip of my brush. And then rinse your brush. We're going to leave that now to dry. Now I want to pick up a bit more of that purple. Some of this beautiful purple that I painted. I mixed. And nice line with your brush. And just leave it for a second. Let it soak into your paper. I'm going to go back and just pick some up. And pull some in with the tip of your brush out towards the edges there, and I'm happy with that. You can now lift out whatever you want while this is still a bit wet, and we're going to leave that. Now I'm going to go to this one here and wet this petal at the top there. I want to just mix a bit more of this pink color, the drop of the purple in. From the top, don't take it all the way to the edge there, except if you want a little hard line there, which I don't mind. And take it in with the tip of your brush. If your brush doesn't have a nice tip, just try and find one with a nice tip. I'm going to rinse my brush and just pull it. Again, rinse. My tissue paper is quite wet now, and just wiggle my brush to create those little wiggly bits while the paper is wet. Okay, now I'm going to again wipe my brush on some tissue paper and then just lift out some of those little sections. And pull it in, and then you want to just drop in a little bit of that purple mix in while your paper is wet. Very watery. Now I'm going to paint in this one. Make sure you don't have too much water on your brush. Might be a bit dark now because the weather is changing. And then just soften those little side lines there. So I don't mind if that pigment flows into that section now because it's basically the same color. And then just lift out some of that. You don't want to create watercolor blooms. Preferably you want to wait for the painting to dry, but I don't have time to wait for the whole painting to dry, so I should use my hairdryer. But again, just dab it on the paper like this. Pull it in towards there. Voice is going a bit, and then we have been doing a lot of voiceovers for Patreon for the next tutorial, which is the butterfly. And Again, just dab it there, pull it out like that. Now I want a beautiful purple mix again. Let me see, that this might be like very similar to a French ultramarine, I'm not sure. I'll double check all of the colors. And then some of this pink, that's got a nice purple. Okay, and now while it's still wet, I'm gonna go in and just drop some of that in and leave it. I want to leave a little lighter section here, so I just want to lift that out with my brush. And on this side, wet your paper. We want to leave this very loose, we don't want too much detail. That now is flowing all over the water, is flowing all into this section, but it doesn't matter, I'll fix it now. Let it dry first and then I'll sort it out. Now I'm going to go in with my comb brush, size tip, and I just want to pull some of these little sections right there. I've never painted with this paint before, so I'm not sure how it's going to act with my watercolors that I normally do. So it's all like a learning curve, and that's fun. For this section, that side's wet now, so I'm not going to go there, and I'm going to drop in some of the yellow there. So again, just a few little and then pull it to there. Quite like how it turned out. This little petal is supposed to be very pink, but obviously all the pigment just went into that, but I don't mind because it's just painting, we're just having fun. And if you paint into a section, just grab a scrubbing brush. Let me just find some of my tissue paper here, some clean water, and just lift it out while it's wet. Just lift it out and dry it with some tissue paper so that you don't let it flow all over the place. Again, I want a bit more of a darker mix there, but it's still very wet, so I'm just going to be very, very careful. So it does take a bit of time to dry because obviously you know, obviously it depends on the weather. We have winter here, so it's very wet at this stage, and you know, just have to take your time and see what's going to happen with the paint. And these are new paints, like I said, so I'm really trying to just test it and see how it's going to turn out. And then I'm going to pick up some more of this purple and just move it in there. And take your brush and just pull some of those little sections out onto there. I find this part dries much slower, and then just make sure my brush is completely wet and just move around these little sections here. Put it in. I didn't pick up any water now. I'm just picking up pigment with my brush, and I want to leave a few little highlighted sections there. There's a bit of water on my brush now, and then just go over and soften it again, dropping in a bit more pink on that section there. Make sure your paint is dry completely. Let it dry, we'll check on it now and see if we're happy. I want some more paint on there. And just put it into that purple section there. Leave some lighter sections for petals to shine through. And make sure your brush is completely dry when you go in here. Just wiggling my brush just to slightly soften those lines, not too much. Okay. And now a bit more color on here, especially on the section. Take it in there. And I think what I'm going to do is, because I have to record this and wait for, I don't have too much time, I'm going to get my hairdryer and just soften these little lines, dry these little parts with my hairdryer, just to dry it quicker. Quite an interesting paint, like I say, I've never used it before, so pick up some of that purple and just drop it in there. Okay, maybe a bit more purple in here. We want a soft, loose little pansy or viola. The minute you have too much water on, it just goes everywhere. So just move it around with your brush. Okay, I'm going to get my... Okay, so again it's dry. I'm going to go in with another color. Let's see if that is completely dry. Mix a bit more of that pink mix here on the palette. Again, I don't want too much paint on my brush here. Just drop some in here. Go around these edges here. And then take your brush and just put it in. Okay. Just want to dry it and then put it in. Okay, so it's very different to what I'm used to, but interesting. So let's see, and then dry my brush. Again. I can say that the colors are slightly shiny, and there's also like a gummy effect. I'm not sure how to describe it. There's something mixed in there, and I will search what it is. It's beautiful. It creates a shine on the paper, and you can either make it translucent or a little bit more of an opaque color if you want. I obviously like translucent watercolors, but you can go much darker. Like for instance, where I'm going in right now to darken that section, I have a very thick, creamy consistency on my brush so that I can darken that section. And then the minute you mix a bit of water, it's like there's like a glue. It's not your normal watercolors. It's slightly different. There's definitely something mixed in there, but it's not bad. It's not all bad. It takes a little bit longer to dry. That's why I use the hair dryer. So it's very interesting to use. Apparently, they're very inexpensive. So I suppose that is in other countries because we have to import them into South Africa, and they weren't that expensive like other brands, but they weren't cheap either. I quite like it. I like the way you can move it on your brush. I did battle in the beginning because obviously it's new to me. It's not the normal watercolors that I normally use, but they were fun to use. So I would say if you have the money and you would like to test other watercolors as well, they would be fun for just playing around and mixing, making cards, and if you find it on a special, they're beautiful, they're lovely to paint with, and I'm going to test them out even more. But I wouldn't say it is something that everyone have to have. But on the other hand, I'm only tasting them right now, so I will have to play around with them.
And just
Um,
dry some
it
of
is
this
fun.
paint up.
It's I would say
Okay.
compared to a gouache paint, I will get these
Now,
instead.
just go
But
in here.
it's all up
A
to
bit more
you,
of a purple
what
colour
you like and what you prefer. Like I say, I
and
wish I
leave
could
it to
just
dry.
hand you a little bit through the
A bit more of
screen
a
and just let you
darker
try it
pink
because it's
here.
very, very interesting. Um, I won't discourage anyone buying them. I'm happy I bought them. The colors I will use, I will definitely play around with them. I just have to get used to them because it's not something that I painted with before. I'm just using that mix now very thick and just dropping in the layers, playing around, testing it. And like I say, if you're going to have too much water on your
Okay.
brush right now, it will just flood the page like watercolors do. And I did a bit of research while I was doing the voiceover, and I noticed that some people say there's like a water soluble resin used in this watercolors. I don't think it's a bad thing. Apparently, you can blot with the paper, so instead of drawing like I'm painting normally with my watercolors, it's better to blotch. So it's better to wet the section and then blotch the paint in. So I will test that again in the future. But like I say, very interesting paint to use, and I love the way it dried in the end with all of the colors on there, beautiful and shiny on the paper.
A bit more pink in here. Dab it on tissue paper. Okay. Let's go on to this one. I'm going to stay with my small brush. I wouldn't wet this a lot, too much, just a bit. Pick up a bit more of this pink and just go in and
So part of this video was recorded live and parts of with a voiceover where I'm just going to talk quickly and then hopefully you can hear both and I will adjust it. But they say that it is water-based pigments and it can be highly opaque or it can be totally transparent. So it's all up to you how much water you mix and what type of painting you do and what style you want to do for a specific painting. So it's all up to you and your water consistency and how you want to use this paint. But it's for anyone to use. It's professional watercolors. It's beautiful. I absolutely love it for now. Um, like I say, I love the way it's on the paper. I will discuss discuss it maybe if I paint a little bit more, if I will suggest it for anyone. Just, let me finish this painting and then let's see what happens. I will show you the end results as well. And with a much smaller brush, which is the Comb number 0 brush. I want the paint to be quite dark, and I want a very watery mix of this with this black mix, and just in there. Okay. Just make sure it's dark enough. Right. Then I'm going to pick up some yellow. So let's pick up a very brightish yellow. I'm going to go with this one here. Very like a, you just need a drop for that there. And I want to just go in there and softly pull it out to there. Make sure it's dry so that you don't mess it up. Okay, let's see if that's dry enough, because I want to rub out with my eraser. Just make sure it's completely dry before you do this, so you don't mess it up. Just want to remove the eraser dust. And now I'm going to go in with a much thicker consistency. So again, that blue that we used earlier with a bit of this purple, and I want it a lot drier. So now we're just going to then take my small brush and just pull some of that out. Just going to wet my brush a little bit and pull some out. Very thick consistency, not too much water on my brush here. And some of this pink. Just dry your brush on the paper because you don't want to mess it up too much, and pull it out. I want you to notice that I left a white section around each petal. That will make a huge difference to your flower. When you stand back and you look at it, it will look a little bit more realistic. And I also noticed with this type of paint, you need a little bit more less water because it makes it sort of gluey and gooey. There's that mixture in there that's like a glue. So it's lovely to paint with. It's just different. You have to learn how to add the color. So you'll notice that sometimes when I put it down, it lifts up some of the bottom layers. So not like watercolor where you can go back quickly and drop in a little bit while it's still wet. With this, it's slightly different.
Okay, and now on this side, again, I want some more of that blue. And some of that pink, more blue.
And for this, make sure your brush has a nice tip. I use a brush with a very sharp point because I want those spiky sections on this side of the flower. Again, I have to make sure that this paint is completely dry when I add this color so I don't lift out the pink. And I leave a nice white section there that's much lighter to create that realistic 3D look on this little flower so that you can see it is a different petal so that it's not one solid flower. And this time of the year, you can just see the difference in the weather. Once it's cloudy, then it's sunny, then it's cloudy, then it's sunny. That's just the weather. Right, yeah. So this is how far we are right now. And this is a very easy flower to paint. Also, you will see I'm going to darken the back petals a little bit more. Again, I want those petals to stand, the lighter petals to stand out, and I want the darker petals to be pushed back. It will create a very realistic look on these flowers. Compared to the white little pansy that we painted, this one's slightly different. There's a little bit more color, and I want you to experience with more color because you can use exactly the same concept that we use for the white pansy, same with this one. But it's a very fun painting to do, especially if you're a beginner. And you can paint loads of these on little cards and use them as little bookmarks. Remember, there's lots of birthdays, there's lots of bookmarks. Maybe you have friends that read a lot. These will make beautiful bookmarks as well. So always keep that in mind. As little practices, they literally will take you half a day to paint for 2-3 hours and you'll have a beautiful painting. And you can write a nice note on your little bookmark. And because I'm not used to this paint, I have to go over and over again with the same layer, same colors, just a thicker consistency. Because if you can look at the section there, just on the left hand side, it dries very light and bland, I would say. And when I darken the consistency to more of a custard or creamy mix, it seems to stay that way. I will take a photo of it about a week later and just post it again just to show you how it dried completely after a few days. Because if it dries quite blandly all the time, then I don't think it's something that I will use very often. But if it dries with a nice shine, I'll definitely use this paint again. It's something to just test, like I don't know this type of paint yet. And this is the lemon yellow, quite thick. I would say if you use a very thick consistency of this paint, it's a little bit more opaque. So you can decide if you want it a little bit more watery, you just mix it with a lot more water. If you want it very opaque, like I use for the yellow in the center here, then you just mix a lot less water in there. Okay, and this is how far we are for now. And this is the pink mix that I want to use. So I would say something with alizarin crimson and a drop of maybe a pinch of some purple or ultramarine will give you the same type of color. But I will show you the color chart of all of these colors just in case you're interested in the future and you want to maybe try it out for yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to darken these sections again slightly with a thicker consistency. And then if I come back maybe tomorrow and I see there's a bit more of color tonal values and mixes that I have to darken, I will just go back and darken some of it. I do find that if you drop in the paint on these sections instead of sweeping it, it doesn't lift the bottom layers, especially if the layers are still slightly wet underneath. So it is just something to consider and to be aware of if you do use this type of paint. But I think it could also be just because of the style of paint that I do, the way I paint, because I like to sometimes just make those little markings with my brush on my paper, on my flowers, or my paintings. And I think that way it just, you know, lifts out some of the bottom layers. But if you use a very light stroke on with your brush and you just sweep it over there, but you make sure that the bottom layers are completely dry, you'll definitely be able to do that. It's just while the paper is wet and that gluey texture that's in the paint sort of lifts off some of the bottom layers. And if I can show you a close-up like that, that is exactly how it paints and how it looks after you've painted the whole little flower. We're not far from the finish line. We're nearly there. And this is a little bit more of a colorful pansy that I painted compared to the viola and the other little white pansy that I painted. So it's a fun tutorial and very easy for beginners, and you'll enjoy this tutorial. I just use a darker little grey mix to darken the center of the flower. As you can see that tiny little grey section there, which is just a watery Payne's grey, or you can use a little drop of violet just to darken it. But make sure you do soften the center so there's not a hard line there, and that will create that realistic look of the center. And I'm going to mix the colors for you so you can see exactly which colors I use for this pansy. And I will see you soon with another tutorial. So I'm definitely going to paint a few more pansies on this page. Maybe use different brands of paint to test it as well.